of Worship, your source for commentary and discussion on worship, theology, and culture. I'm your host, Dr. Jonathan Michael Jones.
Hello and welcome to the Act of Worship podcast. This is Dr. Jonathan Michael Jones. Thank you for joining me today. We are in Psalm 139 in the Psalm Project. We will be in the last 10 coming up pretty soon. Psalm 139, as I mentioned in the previous episode, these next several psalms will be attributed to David. This is one titled "To the Choir Master, a Psalm of David." Psalm 139, a well-known psalm. It is a psalm that is a prayer of a person who calls on God, announcing that he is innocent of all charges. And so with this purpose in mind, he meditates on the character of God, exploring God's wisdom, his omniscience, his omnipotence, his omnipresence, and his greatness as the creator. So let's take a look at this. Let me read for you Psalm 139. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. You hem me in, behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain it. Where shall I go from your spirit, or where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light about me be night. Even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is bright as the day, for darkness is as light with you. For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there were none of them. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God! How vast is the sum of them! If I would count them, they are more than the sand. I awake, and I am still with you. Oh, that you would slay the wicked, O God. O men of blood, depart from me. They speak against you with malicious intent. Your enemies take your name in vain. Do I not hate those who hate you, O Lord? And do I not loathe those who rise up against you? I hate them with complete hatred. I count them as my enemies. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. So let's look at a few things in Psalm 139 that stick out here. It begins and ends in a similar way. So it begins with, "The Lord, you have searched me and known me." And it ends with, "Search me, O God, and know my heart." This probably speaks to the continuous nature of God's searching and knowing. In other words, not just that he has searched and known, but he continues to search and know. So compare the appeal in these two places. He is the all-knowing God who has an intimate understanding of the psalmist as of all his creation. Verse 2, you discern my thoughts from afar. God is omniscient. And so thoughts may be the most private areas of life, but they truly cannot be hidden from the Lord. And I've said this before, it's not just some cute cliche we tell kids Oh, God knows this is truth, and we need to take heed and realize that God knows our thoughts and our heart. 1 Chronicles 28:9. And you, Solomon, my son, know the God of your father and serve him with a whole heart and with a willing mind. For the Lord searches all hearts and understands every plan and thought. If you seek him, he will be found by you. But if you forsake him, he will cast you off forever. And then in John 2:25, talking about Jesus, it says, he himself knew what was in man. That is divine omniscience. God knows all. Verse 4. Even before a word is on my tongue. So God knows David's thought before it is spoken. And this is why we can pray to God silently in our thoughts. He sees and he knows all. You may think, well, if he knows all, what's the point of praying? Well, number one, because God tells us to. And number two, because it reflects our heart and what is in our heart. What comes out of our mouth and what comes out of our mind reflects our desires. And so when we are praying to God, we are verbalizing, even if we are doing it silently in our mind, we are verbalizing to him and confessing and admitting to him what is in our hearts. Verse 5. You hem me in. So the Lord sets his limits around the psalmist's action. Behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. That is to guide him in life. Verse 7. Where shall I go from your spirit, or where shall I flee from your presence? God's personal presence is everywhere throughout his creation. And so the thought of these rhetorical questions is that there is nowhere the psalmist can go that is beyond God's view. Jonah learned this lesson when he tried to flee God's commission to preach to the Ninevites. We know how that turned out. Verse 8. If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. So the psalmist expresses God's omnipresence through a series of contrasts. And the first contrast is spatial. God is in heaven, and his presence reaches to Sheol. But the hope of life beyond the grave shines through in this psalm. Verse 9. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea. So a poetic expression meaning from the east to the west, anywhere on the earth. Verse 10. Even there your hand shall lead me. And so it's not merely that God will see the psalmist wherever he is. He will also be there to guide and support him as well. That is comforting for all of us. Verse 13. You formed my inward parts. So God's knowledge of the writer goes back to even before his birth, to his conception, when the Lord created the psalmist's personal existence. Verse 14. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. And such works include creating the psalmist and every other human being. The wonder of the developing child in the womb gives praise to the Creator. Verse 15. When I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. In other words, in his mother's womb. And here is the metaphor for the womb. Verse 16. The days that were formed for me, when as yet there were none of them. So God's preparation of the poet's days does not wait for time. He rejoices in God's predetermined course for his life. There are people that may not like to hear that choice of words, but it is biblical. Verse 17. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God. The incomprehensible greatness of God's knowledge overwhelms the psalmist, and so to know that one so great knows him so intimately is a source of consolation to David. Well, you could think of this in a smaller terms, how excited we get when someone we truly admire, perhaps someone in a very high place, perhaps someone that's well known, somebody that we admire notices us. When they remember our name, when they talk to us and take the time. So how wonderful is it that God, the creator of the heavens and the universe, knows us intimately? Verse 19, "Oh, that you would slay the wicked, O God. O men of blood, depart from me." So the psalmist wants to distance himself from the wicked because he is allied with God. And then this prayer at the end, "Search me and know my heart." Search, know my heart. Try me, know my thoughts. So search, know, and try. The psalmist trusts God and invites him to probe his innermost thoughts and feelings. And so he submits himself to God's correction and direction. And that is what we should do as believers. We have the Holy Spirit, the comforter, the guider, and the convictor, who knows us and searches us. And may we ever invite him to know us and search us, because he will correct us. He will guide us. And we desire that correction. We desire that, that direction in our life, because it makes us more like Christ. So here is Psalm 139 set to music. Thank you for listening today to the Act of Worship podcast. This is Dr. Jonathan Michael Jones.
You searched me, Lord, and you perceive. You know when I sit down or leave, and from afar you recognize thoughts and desires that in me rise. My lying down, each way I go, all that I do, you search and know. Even before I speak a word, all I would say, you know, Lord. You hear me in here where I stand, and on me you have laid your hand. Such wondrous knowledge is too vast, it is too high beyond my grasp. Where can I from your spirit flee, or from your presence hidden be? You are in heaven, if there I'd fled, and in the grave were that my bed. If I the wings of morning take, and farther see my dwelling make, your hand will guide me even there, your right hand hold me in its care. Could darkness blot me out of sight, could light around me turn to night, no darkness is not dark to you, the night shines brightly in your view. formed my mind within the womb, my inward parts as on a loom. I made with awe-inspiring skill your wondrous work. I praise you still. My soul knows well that this is true. My bones were not concealed from you. They secretly, before my birth, were crafted in the depths of earth. You on my unborn self did gaze, while in your book were set my days, days all inscribed and formed as done, although as yet there was not one. How precious, God, your thoughts for me, how vast in their totality. Their sum exceeds the grains of sand. I wake and still I'm in your hand. God, slay those who your name profaned, rebels who take your name in vain, who hate you, I hate fervently. I count them as my enemies. Search me, O God, my heart discern. Test me, my troubling thoughts to learn. See if my heart toward harm might stray.